Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another College and Career Pathways, where every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. we provide you with information on various colleges and universities, financial aid resources, technical and trade training positions, skilled trade jobs, and career readiness training so that you can make the best career decisions possible. I am Tony Curitan, your host, and we are back with Michigan Schools and Government Credit Union. We're continuing with our financial literacy series. Colleen, welcome back. We're always so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Glad to be here. Happy Friday, everyone.
Indeed.
We are continuing the concept of further education, paying for further education. We looked at saving on tuition. So today we're going to look at the actual student loans. So what if you got to get a student loan? So I do have a fun video for you. Student loans is one of my favorite ones, actually.
But I thought you got that scholarship or whatever.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't cover everything. It's just kind of hard to know what the best option is.
Mac and cheese.
Excuse me?
The best option today is mac and cheese.
We're actually talking about student loans.
Yeah, for college.
College, huh? If you ask me, student loans are the meatloaf surprise of post-secondary education. A lot of students opt for it without understanding the risk that lies ahead.
That can't be good.
Student loans come in two basic food groups, federal and private. Federal student loans are government funded. Private student loans can come from banks, credit unions, schools, or other private institutions. The interest rate for federal student loans is set by Congress. It's a fixed rate that's often lower than private loan rates. The interest rate for private student loans varies from lender to lender. They're often variable rate loans, which makes them unpredictable and potentially more expensive than federal student loans over time.
Can you tell me about your subs?
Subsidized student loans? Sure!
I was asking about the sandwich in this case, but please continue.
Certain federal student loans, such as the Perkins loan, are government subsidized. This means that the government pays the interest on your loans while you're in school, and for a grace period, usually 6 months after graduation.
What? That's awesome.
Private student loans are not subsidized, so interest starts accumulating from day one, and you're responsible for paying it, even while you're a student. Be aware that not all federal student loans are subsidized. The Stafford loan, for example, is a direct unsubsidized loan. You're still borrowing money from the government, but you're responsible for paying the interest that accrues during your time at school.
In that case, I want the sub one.
Well, it's not that simple. You need to make sure you qualify for the loan you want.
There is a range of federal student loans available, and they all have their own eligibility requirements. Some of the criteria are very basic, like being a full-time student and maintaining good grades. Other loans are only available based on financial need.
FAFSA is a free application you submit to find out if you qualify for financial aid.
Do private student loans have all of this eligibility stuff?
Although private lenders don't tend to factor in your financial need, they may have other requirements similar to those associated with regular personal loans. You may need to have a good credit score, for instance, or have a parent co-signer.
There are lots of options out there to choose from. But what I'm worried about is what happens after graduation.
Oh, I know what happens. You and your classmates throw your square hat things really high in the air and everybody cheers.
No, Jen, I meant paying back the student loan.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely more worrisome.
Repayment is an important factor to consider. Federal student loans generally provide more flexible repayment options than private student loans. Options include standard fixed payment plans, graduated payment plans where your payments increase over time as you build your career, and income-based payment plans. Federal loans are also easier to consolidate.
Consolidation is when you combine multiple loans into one single loan.
I'm guessing that private student loans don't have as many repayment options.
Private lenders tend to be more rigid when it comes to repayment, and private student loans can be trickier to consolidate.
I told you, there's so many things to consider.
Don't forget to compare additional factors like loan fees and borrowing limits.
Ooh, try and get one with no borrowing limit.
That's actually a terrible idea.
What?
Take my advice, kids. Only borrow what you truly need. Because just like these extra spicy buffalo wings, though it might seem like a good idea to load up, you will definitely pay for it later.
Ew.
That's nasty.
Certain federal student loans are government subsidized. Subsidized.
Cut. Let's do this again.
That's a long thing to say.
I need you to concentrate.
It's a hard word to say.
Take two.
Lunch later.
All right, so that goes over a lot of the basics that we're going to cover. Let me pull up. Come on. Okay. All right. Paying for student loans. Now, we're looking at, there we go. What? No. Okay. Federal loans versus private loans. Now, I want to reiterate, just like last time, taking out some loans are meant for positive purposes. You're investing in yourself. You're taking out a loan, but you're investing in yourself. You're going to get something out of it. You are going to be a return on the investment. So don't think of it as all negative, but don't think of it as free money either. You may have options. You may have lots of options to choose from. You may not be eligible for some and end up with only a few options, but we're going to look at what's available. And definitely going over this because you're young. I mean, just by definition, you're not experienced in paying back loans. It's a fact. So you're not going to know all the terminology. You're not going to read all the fine print. And sometimes it's really hard to understand, something 30 years in the future when you're 18. Federal loans are government funded loans. Government funded meaning throughout COVID and the pandemic, and you heard there was a pause on student loans, and they're extending the pause, they're extending the no payments due. Well, those are for the federal student loans. That's only talking about federal student loans. This talk of trying to get student loans forgiven, Biden wants to forgive student loans. Well, he's only talking about loans, the student loans that are federal student loans. So if it is a private student loan, you can't apply for the Biden because you don't have your loan through the government, right? That's just kind of how it's different. Is your loan directly from Michigan Schools and Government Credit Union? Is it from a bank? Is it, from a family member even? Are you borrowing money? Any place other than the government. So we're going to look at what are the differences. They went over a lot of the differences in the video, kind of breezed over them. So we're going to look a little deeper at why they matter, or why knowing about them matters, I should say. A federal student loan interest rate, as a rule, is going to be a little bit lower than a private business. For instance, a bank is a corporation, right? It's a for-profit business. So their interest rate on a loan will probably be pretty high, especially on an unsecured loan that's just cash. A credit union unsecured loan would have a lower interest rate, but still would probably, I'm sure, be higher than what the government is offering to you at the federal level. Now, it says it is a fixed rate that's often lower than private rates. Fixed rates tend to be easier to budget for because they stay the same over time. Fixed rates are great. I just want to point out, it's a fixed rate from when you sign the contract, right? When you fill out the FAFSA, maybe you're looking online and you see, oh, look at that, it's 4.8 interest rate from the government. Okay. And, you turn in your paperwork and you get, an offer back and you respond and now I want to take out this much of a loan. And now you go to sign the loan and it's 6.5% interest. Well, you said it was fixed. Well, it's going to be a fixed. Once you sign it, it will be fixed at 6.5 the entire time. It can change over time, this year, earlier in the year. So don't think that what you see the interest rate as right now is always going to be fixed. When you sign your contract, that interest rate is going to be fixed. Interest rates from private lenders, it depends. It depends on the type of loan you get. It could be a fixed rate. It could be a revolving loan. Those generally are expensive. Well, I should say more expensive. And you have to start paying the interest right away. So that interest is going to accumulate. Are the loans subsidized? This is that same idea. There are some loans from the government, from the federal government that are subsidized, meaning while you are attending school and you don't have to make payments, you're in non-repayment status, you are not being charged interest. Now, I was showing last time the different calculators, how if you accept extra money, or if it changes from year to year and you're going to gain interest while it's waiting for you, there's both. There's loans that are subsidized that will not accumulate interest while you're in school. And there are unsubsidized loans that do accumulate interest while you're in school. You don't have to pay yet, but they are accumulating interest. And you're probably going to get some of each. You're going to get offered a little bit from one, and a little bit from another. It's just keep in mind, just because one loan is subsidized, that doesn't mean that all of the loans you take, for the rest of the time you're in college, are going to be subsidized. And private loans, it's the same like a car loan. You got to pay starting the next month. You buy a house, you start paying the next month. You buy something on a credit card, they're going to send a bill the next month. So there is no, can I wait a few years to start paying this back with any sort of bank or credit union, possibly a family member. What are the eligibility requirements? Again, we're saying, oh, I could apply here and I could apply here, but what's realistic? How do I qualify for each? Well, the federal government is going to offer loans to a wider audience than a private business. You can be eligible for a loan due to the FAFSA. You fill out your personal situation. If you yourself are taking out the student loan, this is all about you. If your parents are taking out the student loan, or maybe your parents and yourself together are taking out the student loan, all of their information needs to go in there. Really, even if you're taking the loan out, I think you have to include parents' information. The government wants to know How much money do you guys make? How much money have you been making over the past few years? How many other kids do you have? What kind of retirement do you have? Do you have any other properties? Basically, kind of how much are you worth? How much do we feel you can contribute? Being the student who has 2 full-time working parents that make a really good living, and they have a summer home and a boat, and they have a good retirement, but they've got multiple kids, so they're afraid of multiple kids. That's super expensive. So of course each of their kids is going to fill out a FAFSA. What is the government willing to offer me? They will be offered a loan, but they will probably not be offered as much as someone who says, well, my family situation, not who says, who has a family situation of less income, less work in the past few years. Maybe there's no retirement. I'm going to have to pay for this myself. All of those details go in there. And because of that, you may be offered a larger loan, understanding that they feel you have a bigger need. Now, it also depends on where you want to go to school. I mean, you may not know. While you're filling out the FAFSA, you can say, you know what, just offer me as much as you'll offer me, and I'll let you know how much I'll take. Or at this point, you might be completely set. I already know I'm going to Michigan State. I already know I'm going to, U of M, or I already know I'm going to Aquinas or Albion. And what the tuition is, a tuition and room and board. And that it's $10,000 for the first semester. Well, you put that in there. You say, I'm trying to go to Aquinas and it's $10,000 a semester. You can check with them. They'll tell you the same thing. Here's proof that I was accepted, and you're likely to get approved for that amount, rather than if you say, I'm trying to go to Oakland University, here's my acceptance letter, and here's the proof that a semester is $5,000. Well, you'll probably get the $5,000. So there isn't a right amount or I'm trying to get a certain amount. It's just a free application saying, this is the situation. What are you willing to offer me to help out? Some people think filling out the FAFSA is you're kind of taking on a loan. You're asking for a student loan. You're just getting information. You haven't signed anything in terms of promissory note. There's no promise. There's no money exchanged. So until there's no promise of money exchanged, you're just having a conversation. You're just gathering information. Repayment options. This is incredibly important. When I do the reality fairs, the budget simulations, and students will pick their career, they'll pick how much college, they want to have attended. So I'll give them student loans, and they get so mad. $500 a month. Oh my God, $600, $700 a month. That's what they're going to give you. You're going to get right off the bat probably a really high amount. Now, what are your other options, right? What can you do about that? This is what kind of the exercise in these workshops are for. Just something you're offered may not be your only option. Federal student loans from the government have a more flexible repayment plan, certainly in the fact that you don't have to pay during the time you go to school. And it is flexible in the way that there's something called a deference or a forbearance. You can apply, you can call and say, I lost my job. I haven't been able to get a job. I can't afford these payments, but I don't want to be delinquent. Can you kind of defer my payments for 6 months, and then, apply again. You can apply for economic unemployment hardship. For instance, during COVID, again, student loan payments were paused in that, everybody became in non-payment status. So a credit union, a bank, they're not going to do that. Credit unions are going to give you a great rate. I love credit unions, but they're never going to turn around and say, you know what, you don't have to pay us this loan back, or you can take a year, you can take 6 months, and then come back. Oh, I'm sorry you lost your job. You don't have to pay for a while. Always ask, you might get lucky, but the government right out in front of you offers these different options. You saw it showed the graduated plan, a graduated where you start paying the smallest amount in the beginning, and every 2 years, because I used to be on a graduate, every 2 years it goes up. And it goes up, incrementally, let's say by $10. And then the next 2 years, it goes up by $20. And the next 2 years, by $40. Depends on how much your loan is for. But intending that I make the least amount of money now, and as I get older, I will be making more money. So therefore I can make bigger payments. Okay, that makes sense, especially if you're, becoming a doctor or a lawyer, or something where you're pretty sure the income's going to be there, and you're pretty sure it's going to be pretty high. That can get you stuck too if you just keep paying the smallest amounts, leaving still a large amount of money left when maybe you didn't get that high paying job, you haven't been able to land that career, or you got the career and it really wasn't that high, as high paying as you thought. So it's an option, but it may not be the best for you. Income-based repayment plan. That's what I'm currently on for student loans. Is every year you provide your taxes, and you say, this is how much I made last year. This is how much I put into retirement. You tell me how much you think I can afford each month. And it's kind of like a mini FAFSA. And they'll write back saying, okay, we think based on your income that you can contribute $50 a month, or maybe $20 a month, or maybe $165. Again, it depends on how much you make. And then you pay that amount that year, and then you reapply the next year because maybe you got a different job, maybe you got a raise, maybe you worked less hours. So you're consistently paying an income-based amount, but it doesn't mean that you're paying it off necessarily any faster. Your total amount is still there. You may have only paid off a very small amount in 10 years or so, and that's still 10 years worth of interest that you've accumulated. You're not late, you're not behind, you have great credit, but you really haven't made a dent in that student loan debt. So knowing the different options, knowing that you can change them, starting out one way, changing to another. You get a better job, I want to start paying more. You realize you're almost finished paying off the loan that has the higher interest rate, so you're going to start putting more money on that one. Just ask, research, look it up. There's a lot of information, Department of Education online. Private lenders, again, in the same way that you get a car loan, a home loan, there's not a lot of wiggle room for something changed in my life. And let's say you're trying to get a loan for, $30,000, $37,000. That was it said that was the average. So you're going to get $37,000. Usually if you get a $37,000 loan, that's probably a 3-year, 5-year loan. You might be able to talk yourself into you're probably going to have a 5-year loan. That's a really high payment. Student loans can be 30-year long payments, making it smaller chunks enough that you can afford it. But if you have to pay, $700, every month in order to pay it off in 5 years, that's a totally different situation. You need to know that, right? They are not going to offer a 15-year option or a 30-year option for a $30,000 loan. Really, they're only going to offer a 30-year loan for a house. I don't think there's any occasion. I haven't heard of a different occasion. So which is best for you? You've got to look at all the factors. Loan fees. Keep in mind, if you have to have a 30-year loan, that's a lot more interest than a 15-year loan, thousands of dollars perhaps. Are you going to, get a bunch of scholarships this year, but you're like, oh, I think I'm going to have to take out a much larger loan, in a few years, or maybe once I get to graduate school. Graduate classes are more expensive than undergraduate classes, even though you literally are attending sometimes the same class. You could have someone who's an undergraduate here and a graduate here, and they're paying two different amounts. So college is expensive. What are you specifically looking for? What is your situation? Be realistic. If you're just expecting your parents are going to pay for it all, you need to have that conversation. If you and your parents, both of your names are on a student loan and you're just kind of expecting them to, they'll take care of it. Well, it's going to affect your credit, your future credit, in exactly the same way it'll affect theirs. So if payments aren't getting made, it shows up on your credit report. Just like a credit card, just like an auto loan, non-payment of a student loan is non-payment of a loan, and it will show up. And a lot of people struggle with student loan debt. It hangs over you. It's hard to pay down because you're paying these small amounts that you can afford. So look at all the options. Think of the future. Think of kind of a backup plan, not, well, this is the only way that's going to work. Well, okay, if we get this, we can do this, but if we only get this much, here's maybe a way that we can kind of get around it. Maybe you are eligible for a bunch of federal student loans and there's like a little bit left, and maybe you have to get a small private loan. You could do that. I was mentioning that the non-payment gets reported to the credit bureaus. If you declare bankruptcy at some point in your life, which I hope you don't, student loans are not affected. So the oversimplification of bankruptcy is kind of a redo, a restart, a clean slate. So some of your debts are, no longer your debts, and some bills that you used to have can go away. And if you think, well, $200,000 of student loan debt, I'll just declare bankruptcy and it's going to wipe everything clean, and then I'll just start over. That's a great idea. Well, people have thought of that. Your student loans are completely unaffected by bankruptcy. So that $200,000, the government is going to get it. It's going to get it. If it has to take your refund, your tax refund, garnish your tax refund, garnish your wages. If you're so behind, so delinquent or in default, if you get in default, if you get to a point where you're struggling to pay, talk to someone, ask questions, come to the credit union, come to MSGCU. We're not who gave you the loan, but we can help you through, what are some maybe different options, or what might be a good course of action. You know, we can explain things maybe a little better. So please ask for help. We don't want you to be delinquent. We want you to find an option to get right, you know, right back in, you know, on the saddle in repayment mode. No matter which you choose, or again, multiple, you may take out multiple loans, a loan freshman year, a loan sophomore year, you know, loan junior year. And at some point you kind of combine those loans together into one big loan. If you consolidate, whatever type of loan you take, completely understand what you are signing. And that goes for anything you're signing, but really understand what that interest rate means. What are the terms? How long? How many years is this? What are the consequences of non-payment? Well, the consequences of non-payment are, you know, being reported to your credit, losing credit opportunities, being sent to collection, potentially having, you know, your wages garnished. You don't want that. So understand what's possible, understand what you're asking for, and understand what you're getting. And again, taking out a student loan isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a scary thing. It can be kind of a scary thing because you're investing in yourself. You're taking out a lot of money to put into yourself, to put knowledge and experience and skill, you know, into you, so that you can now bring that to the table and earn a lot more money. So when you're in classes and when you're, you know, I had a Saturday morning class one semester and I never did it again. I had a 9 a.m. Saturday morning class. When you're debating whether you want to go in or debating whether you want to leave class early, remember, I'm investing this money in myself. You know, I took out $20 for this hour right now is costing me $100, and it's just going to continue to cost me interest over the next few years. Use the time wisely. You know, take advantage of what's offered to you in school, whether it's certification programs. Continue to look for scholarships beyond freshman year. Freshman year is usually when, you know, most scholarships are applied for and funded, but it's not always. You know, keep looking. The worst thing that can happen is they say no. Were there any questions from the audience or from Ms. Curitan at all?
No, Colleen, you covered everything really well. You had me chuckling on the on the part where people may apply for bankruptcy thinking they'll wipe out the student debt. That was amusing, because again, that is a mistake, that people often think that student loan is like any other debt and will go away magically, but it never ever goes away. Oh, no questions. Great presentation as always. Thank you so much, and everybody have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Bye.